Well, I am going to be kind of reviewing some books that I've been currently reading in 2023. It's January 23rd, 2023. And I have started some books. I'd started some books back November of 2022. But I did not finish them until now. So I'm going to kind of add them in. I read them in the new year. I'm counting them since I finished them in the new year, even though I didn't start them. But one of the books that I'm currently listening to on Audible sort of motivated me to kind of say, okay, I'm going to try to YouTube a little bit more, and we'll see how this goes. It may not be great, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm just going to start with some things that are pertinent to our life and our family. But I would like to sort of document the books that I've been reading. So I will start with these. The first book that I finished in January was called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I would give it like 5 stars. It was awesome. There's language. I will say that. But, if you're an adult reading it, then you should be able to weed through the language. What he has to say, it can change your view on how you are just living your day-to-day life. It will motivate you to do things you haven't been doing, and it will call you out on things and make you really look at yourself and not make excuses. So I would highly recommend this book. He has a podcast, I think, too, or he's been on podcasts. I'm not sure. You can Google David Goggins. He has quite a story. But this book, great place to start. So my next book that I finished that I had started in 2022 is called How the Caged Bird Sings, or Why the Caged Bird Sings. I'll get that straightened out. But it's by Maya Angelou. I started to read this book more as I was checking up on some of the books my daughter had to read. She was entering this beta competition, and she had to take tests on these books. And a lot of them I was not familiar with. Although I had heard of this book by Maya Angelou, I had never read it in high school or college, so I wasn't familiar with it. And it is beautifully written. She is an amazing writer. It is a story about her life from childhood up to about 16, 17 years old. And it is, it's very descriptive. There's some very graphic parts that I don't feel are really geared for a teenage audience. I'm somewhat surprised that they were wanting high schoolers to read this book just because it is rather descriptive. So I would say for an adult audience, it's fine. Teenage audience, no, not really. I don't feel like it was the best choice for them to put into this beta competition. Needless to say, she did not read the book, but I am glad I read the book. It gave me a good kind of view on Maya Angelou. I didn't know much about her, and it kind of made me dig into her history and see all the different things that she did with her life. But it is very well written, and I would recommend it for an adult audience. So the next thing that I went through on Audible, it's called The Holiness of God, and it is not necessarily a book. I do believe it is a book in written form, but on Audible it is more like a class. So it's him teaching through his book. So it's not like somebody reading his book. It's him actually teaching the class at his church. And for spiritual growth, oh my goodness, it's just incredible. He is an incredible Bible teacher and preacher. This I would classify more under the teaching category, though, than the preaching category. But wow, I was like, it certainly captivated my attention the whole way through. And I would listen to this book when I was exercising. And I also started Knowing God by J.I. Packer. And I tried to do that when I would run. Nope. The pain of running, I could not pay attention to J.I. Packer or whoever's reading his book. It's a little too deep to kind of just get in a run. But the holiness of God, I could do that. My mind could somehow keep up with what R.C. Sproul was saying. So I made it through that. That was an awesome listen to. So if you notice, I have a mixture of things I listen to, things I actually read. So Maya Angelou, I've read the book, and then the other ones have been audibles. Now this other book, I'll pull it out right here. I'm hiding behind my bed. It's called Bryson City Tales by Walt Larimore, MD. And it is a story of his time as he started his practice in the North Carolina mountains. I would say this is about the 70s, 80s, maybe mid-70s. I can't quite figure the time frame. Somewhere in there. It's just a nice bedtime read. It's something that you can read and it doesn't add any stress to your life. It's just enjoyable reading. So I've been reading that one now for probably a couple months too, because I just read a chapter before I go to bed. If I don't just fall asleep, which a lot of times I just fall asleep. So I hope to finish that soon because I really need to just finish it and be done with it. Move on. There's 2 books, and so the other one is similar. Continues the story of his life as a doctor. So the interesting thing about my reading is every book that I'm listing right now, there is no fiction here. I have not read a lot of fiction in a long time, unless it is children's books. I read lots of children's books with my boys. And, so I get my fiction dose, I guess, through that. I'm not much for fiction when it comes to my own personal reading. Every now and then I will. But so far, in the past several months, there's been no fiction in my repertoire. So the book that I'm currently listening to on Audible right now is called Soundtracks. And I'll just put it here because I don't remember the author's name. But that has been super motivational for me. It deals with the things that we tell ourselves. And I'm not into a lot of psychology, I'm not into this self-help or even self-care, motivational, talk yourself into things. I'm not into that kind of, I would call it weirdness. I know it's not for some people, but it is for me. It's just, that's not my thing. But this book, Chris had read, and he said there's a lot to it because you do end up telling yourself things. A lot of times they're negative things. And they're things that you say, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not me. I don't do that. And so I've thought, there's some truth to that. One of the things for me personally is, and I even say it now, I'm like, I'm not a runner. I don't run. I do this really weird jogging thing up and down the road. But I have been able to run a 5K. And I run 5 miles a week. So it's not true. I am a runner. I'm not the best. I don't do it great, but I do it. So it is that idea of what are things that we tell ourselves over and over again, and then we just believe it. And so it's been interesting, just listening to his stories, and some people may say that's like self-talk and positive thinking or whatever. I don't really know that it's completely all positive thinking, but there's some truth to it. It's the stuff that you hear, and then you just keep repeating it to yourself until sometimes you believe it and it's not even true. So it's been an interesting book. I'm probably about halfway through with that one, and that's on Audible too. So those are my books for January, and I need to come up with some new listening stuff for February too. So we'll see what February brings, but that's January, and hopefully I'll stick to it. It'd be great if I could have 12 of these book videos when I finish the year. So we'll see. All right, goodbye.